Continuing on from last episode, not the last episode, the last episode of this series that traces the development of our technological progress as well as our evolution from the hominin ancestors to modern humans. So last week we covered the Alduin tradition, the Alduin complex, the Alduin industry complex, the stone tools. And today we're going to continue. We're going to go to the next phase, and a real revolution occurred in the transition from the Alduin technology to this new technology, which is the Acheulean technology. I will start by sharing the screen. We are going to as usual, all the references are in the description. One of them, the last one, I think, is and the actual study, from Nature. And there's a couple of nice, interesting reads. I thought they were interesting. I also have with me here some of my old textbooks that I used at university. One of them is People of the Earth by Brian M. Fagan. An Introduction to World Prehistory. That was my first year manual. I had to use it. I still use it because it's quite interesting. And another one is just the Facts on File Dictionary of Archaeology, which is interesting, just for little reference points. If you can get your hands on them, I won't put the links into them. I might put the links into them if I feel like it, but if not, they're just reference books that we had as reading material at university. So I will share the screen, and we're going to read this article from the Museum of Anthropology from Mizzou, the University of Missouri. We all know that university, don't we? But we won't talk about that. So I'm going to share the screen. And we continue on with our series of the stone tools, the technology. So we have arrived at around 1.6 million years ago, and this was the introduction of a new tradition, a new stone tool complex, a new stone tool industry, which is being named the Acheulean. The Acheulean gets its name from the site in Saint Acheulean in the Somme River in France, where the artifacts were first excavated from this industry, this tradition, this whatever you want to call it. It's industry, and the Acheulean tools are associated with one hominin, one of our ancestors, a human, and that human is Erectus. Not just Erectus, but also antecessor, because the common ancestor of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and Sapiens. And this industry, this complex, these tools can be found from Africa, all of Europe, and up to the Indian subcontinent. So it is extremely widespread, and it covers a period from 1.6 million, possibly to around 200,000 years ago. So up until our time, when we first emerged, the 200,000 years is more East Asia, Southeast Asia, I might say. So now let's get on with reading. They are product, as I said, of Erectus. They were the close ancestor to us. Well, he's a direct descendant of us. We are the direct descendant of him, actually. So not only are the Acheulean tools found over the largest area, but it's also the longest running industry, which lasted over 1 million years. Exactly. It was very efficient. While Erectus was on Earth, in Africa and in Eurasia, the whole continent of Eurasia, it served that species very, very well, and then his descendant species, antecessor, which gave rise then to, as I said, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and us. And the technology is best characterized by its distinctive stone axes. These axes, these stone axes, are massive. They can be up to 25 centimeters in length. I have held some in my hand because where I live, we have a river that divides Portugal and Spain, and we have a deposit of these hand axes that has been excavated, and it's still being excavated not far from where I live, about 27 kilometers. And there's also continuation because in the landscape is not in isolation. There were no borders. Even the river that divides Portugal and Spain, in the vast expanses of time ago, it was not that great a barrier in the summer. In the winter, it was a flood plain and huge floods. We know from the deposits. But in summer, I can see, because now it's quite a steep valley, the river valley, the canyon, the steep canyon that the river has cut out into the land. He's a few tens of meters deep, almost 100, not 100, but tens of meters deep. Quite a lot, quite deep. But around 400,000 years ago, which they have dated the stone tools which are found in my area, around 300 to 400,000 years ago, and it wasn't as deep. It was more wider. I apologize for that. Was wider than it is now. The river, how the river flows. So these axes, I'll show you these pictures here from this article. They are very characteristic. Let me just make it. That's how big it goes. I apologize, guys. These are Aldoan, but these are Acheulean. As you can see, they are the characteristics are they have a huge base at the bottom. If you guys can see, yes, you can see the cursor. They all have this wide base. Possibly was how it was held, possibly, and it usually ends in a point. Now it has a cutting edge. They all have cutting edges. They can be sharp, in fact. They are big. Like I said, they can be up to about 20 centimeters long. And just see if there's another one. That's 3. No, just the last one. So these are the other ones were from the older one series, but these are the Acheulean hand axes. Let's see, I'll try and see if it. There we go. That's a bit better. Now they were a multi-tool. They were scrapers. They were used for scraping. They were used for cutting. They were used for hitting. For example, hitting bones, or possibly even cutting a small wooden, small trees, small saplings to make possibly to make spears, which were heat tipped. They weren't tipped with any stone implement. That came later. But at this time, we know that possibly they sharpened wooden spears by heating them and then scraping them with these tools. So they were the Swiss Army knives of the stone tool era, and they are beautiful. I would love to go to where they were found, and possibly in an out of context situation, because I would never, as an archaeologist, I would never disturb one if I found it in situ, in location. I would call the archaeologist immediately so they can study them, because if you touch it, you destroy everything associated, all the data that you can obtain from it, you destroy it. So, but if I found one, because many of the property owners, they do find them, and then they hand them in. That is called out of context. They still have value, obviously, but not the extreme value that you can get from finding one in its place. That was how it was left there. So if I would find one in out of context, like I said, oh man, I would keep it. Yes, absolutely. Oh, but if I do, like I said, if I do find one in its place, no. That is destruction, and I don't like destruction. Sorry about that. Let's get it back to. Oh God, what did I do? I'll there we go. Refresh. Where were we? The Acheulean hand axes. Yes. Now, continuing. The Acheulean technologies, as I said, is best characterized by distinctive hand axes. These hand axes are pear-shaped, as I said. Big bottom, big round one end and sharp at the other, pear-shaped, and or teardrop shaped, and with a rounded in outline. They're usually between 12 and 20 centimeters long, and they flaked over at least part of the surface on each side. So they are also bifacially flaked. That means that flakes were taken off from both sides of the cutting edge. If you can imagine, if you look at a modern knife, you have the back part where it doesn't cut, but if you look at it, it has two sides to it. That's called bifacial. Has been shaped on both sides, and they obviously vary in size and quality, because you can make one as fast as you need, or you can, if you take care, you can make one exquisitely, which is perfect. That's the beauty of them. They still a stone tool, a stone flake. If you use the right kind of tools, for example, the material, for example, flint, anything you make of flint, you remove a flake off a flint core, you have a cutting implement that is sharper than the best medical scalpels produced. In fact, I've already mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. With flint, they use flint scalpels for plastic surgery because they have the edge that is 2 microns compared to the sharpest metallic steel, carbon steel, whatever scalpel, which is it's about 10 times more than that, between 20 and 40 microns. So you can see that how awesome as the stone tools were. They can make a simple knife just by taking a couple of flakes off a stone, and then if you can then discard it if you after you finish, or you can keep them. Many of the stone tools that were found in my area and the corresponding Spanish area, a few kilometers, some kilometers south, not south, west of where I live, from the same period, they were basically thrown away then after usage. It was possibly a butchering site close to the river, but in a valley. If you guys ever come here, but you have to think like I do. You have to think how it was 400,000 years ago. The river wasn't as deep. More trees were there. The valley was full of trees, for example, but there were clearings, and you would kill an animal and then take it to a small area where you butchered it. If it was small enough, if it was big enough, you butcher it where you found it. Then you discard the tool. If you discard the tool or keep it. If it was well made, they would keep them. If they were not as well, one of those quick discard type, quote unquote swatch type. Well, the swatch analogy was the original. What Swatch was hoping for, make disposable watches. but they've gone expensive, so you don't throw them away. Just had to tie that in. But these tools were extremely useful, and they were either super well made and they would have been kept, or just simple cobbled together, as the saying goes, for that single use. Now, it says here, of course, if you guys continue to read, that they were multi-purpose tools. Then the studies of the surface where pattern reveals they were used, including butchering, skinning of the game, digging the soil, cutting wood, and other plant materials. Like I said, they were the Swiss Army knife of stone tools. They were used for everything. And the hand axes were not only target for Acheulean manufacturing process like the old one. The flake struck off the stone core in creating the axes were also used as scrapers and cutting instruments. These images are from most likely the museum exhibit because they're not included here. I apologize for that. And he goes on to say the Museum of Anthropology collection, and they have between 1908 images. They have dates from 1,750,000 years, 800,000 years ago in Sahara, etc., etc. Like I said, it is from 1.6 million, about, more or less, could be earlier even, to around 200,000 years ago. And the rest of the article just basically dates the sites where they were found. Interesting that the technique to use to produce these hand axes did continue on to later, up until our species emerged. And even our species used, and even to quite modern times. In fact, even the older one technology was, technology quote unquote, similar to the older one technology was used up until quite recent by us. Because simple tools, as stone tools, can make them simply. So yeah, this article seems short, but that's what characterized the older one. For the other technologies, which I will cover, I will have to break them down, because within that time period there were traditions, quote unquote, not traditions like we know today. When an archaeologist talk of a tradition, this is a tradition, the Acheulean tool tradition. So it's slightly different. Anyway, thank you all. I think this wraps it up. Yeah, about that. Now let's say hello to everyone in the chat. I'll just stop sharing this. There we go. Now, hello, John. As always, hey, Jeff Albambino. Pleasure to have you here, man. In fact, you deserve a spanner. Where is it? There we go. You deserve a spanner, my friend. I don't give them out hilly-nilly, but I do give them out to people who are nice, who are awesome. Thank you, John. Just before you guys go, before even I go, a few and I was followed by one of my hero that I follow on Twitter, the Fundación Atapuerca. They are a foundation in Spain, in the city of Burgos. I've spoken about them before. They have a museum in Burgos, which is about 600 kilometers from where I live, and that's close. It's about 5 hours drive. It's easy. I would love to go there. I might go there. We'll see. I want to go there. I hope Spain doesn't collapse before that. But I want to go there because I talk a lot about antecessor, Homo sapiens antecessor, and Neanderthalensis, Erectus, and us. And all of these examples are found in a cave system close to that museum. and they followed me. I'm so excited. They will, as soon as they look at my politics, they will unfollow me and block me and all that because I'm politically not correct. But I'm proud that I'm happy that not proud. I'm chuffed that they followed me because I've quote them a lot. I love their work. Roberto Sainz, he's an archaeologist, Spanish archaeologist. I love his work. Springer, he's a South Africa. He works in South Africa, I think. Yes, he does. He's the one who excavated the Naledians in South Africa. And he's awesome. Then you have Jens Nostroff from, I think he's a Scandinavian, if I'm not mistaken. He does speak German and he writes in German, but these are the people who I love to follow because they are awesome. And there's a few other sites, paleoanthropology, that I follow on Twitter. And oh man, I would love to meet them if I ever go to Atapuerca in Spain, in Burgos. So I think that wraps it up. Till next time, thank you for appearing, everyone. Bye bye.